All right, welcome back, everyone. We are hot off the heels of the most recent Mythic Americas tournament. It was another starter box tournament, so this is just a starter box and a Magic user, real kind of casual game format. But it was tons of fun, and I have here the winner of the tournament, Mr. Sebastian. How's it going?
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me on. It's going well. How about yourself?
Doing good. Glad to have you on here. Yeah, so I kind of just wanted to have you on to talk about, the competitive scene for this game is relatively new. And I've attended most of the events that they've had so far, but you did really well in this event, and you were playing one of the new factions, which is especially interesting. So I kind of just wanted to have you on and talk about the games that you played, what you thought of the people of the Totem, because that was the army that you chose, and kind of go over how the tournament went for you. But to kick it off, tell me a little bit about your experience with Mythic Americas. How'd you get into it? How'd you find it? And how much have you played so far?
Sure. I am very much a newbie when it comes to Mythic Americas. I hadn't even heard of the game until this most recent PAX, and that was PAX Unplugged in Philly. And so I was wandering around the game hall with my wife and my friends, and we saw the booth for Mythic Americas, and my one friend and I we went to check it out, look at the models, and we got a little bit of a demo from Old Man Eric. And after that, I was like, all right, I think I want to take the plunge, but I don't know what faction I want to start with yet. Let me do some research. So that night, when I got back to the hotel, did some research on the factions, and I kind of thought like, oh, I want to do either Inuit or the people of the Totem because I thought that more like defensive style with the Inuit being tough or the people of the Totem just having fantastic armor saves that really appealed to me.
Yeah, we're gonna talk
And
more
then
about that in a
yeah, we
minute.
will. And then the next day when I went back to the vendor hall, I found out that the people of the Totem only came in the two-player starter box, so that narrowed the choice down to Inuit. Um, and so after picking up the starter box for Inuit, my experience has been incredibly limited. I had two games. One was I went to Mythico Studios to do a demo with Old Man Eric with for him to kind of teach me how to play the ins and outs of the game. And my second game was just I was teaching my one friend how to play, and I had a Mayan starter force that I lent him for that. And so we played my Inuit versus his Mayans. And so yeah, before the tournament, I only had two games under my belt, but I was excited to try and pick up another force, learn how they work, and I really wanted to make a river. So that that kind of that kind of led me down the people of the totem pathway. Originally with the missions that were scenarios that were listed for what the tournament was going to be, I kind of thought that the Chachapoya were going in there with kind of the strongest rule set, the strongest forces. But then, old man Eric pulled a fastball on us and just changed every single mission the day of. So everyone's preparation and planning kind of went out the window there.
Yeah, I think as far as I know, he was planning to do the day. I didn't. I also found out the day of, so it was a surprise to me as well. But as far as I know, that was something he had planned to do. I think he just whenever they posted the tournament pack, it got mixed up and it had the old scenarios on it. But I do agree. I think Chachapoya would have had a pretty good time with some of the simpler objective types because they have the ability to infiltrate. They can just deploy on the other side of the board, which is pretty great. But I think the scenarios that we played, um, I think two of them were better. I think one of them was a little weird, but we'll get into that um, when we go into your games. But just to go back to it, so you got Inuit. That was one of your kind of first picks. But
Hmm.
then because this is a starter box tournament, you sign up for the tournament and you get a starter box plus the magic user for your faction. And they were allowing people to take the factions out of the starter box. You just kind of get half of the starter box that way. So that allowed you to take people of the totem, and it worked out pretty good for you because you got both the stars you want.
Yeah, yeah, that worked out. That worked out great. And I was very pleased with the people of the totem. I don't know if you want me to go over what the starter box kind of includes or the kind of the list I was forced to take because I didn't have any real flexibility with that.
Yeah, normally I'd ask you what list you put together, but there wasn't any putting together. It was just here's your list. So go. But yeah, take us through what it comes with, and then we can talk a little bit more about your games.
Sure. So the general is, and I am sure I'm going to butcher these pronunciations, but it
This is a
comes with
tough one.
the Kuixanka, who is the warlord, and he comes with a spear and his two bodyguards, and all of them have heavy armor, so they're rocking up there with a save of an 8, which was fantastic. And the general, also had follow, which was incredibly useful in every game. And I think every single game I played, I started the same way. I deployed him first in the middle of my line, first activation with him, march him forward, bring 3 of his buddy units with him.
Yeah.
Then for the spellcaster, it was the Nucha Nolth Medicine Carver. So this box was really interesting because it came with 3 totems, and I'm not sure how many totems you can have out. I would assume it's 3, because that's what it came with. Um, but for 2 out of 3 games, he didn't get any spells off whatsoever. He was just whiffing all the time. But he's a very cool looking model.
Yeah. The spellcasting in this game is very powerful, but it is very, I guess, random, because if you fail your to cast it, you can't try that spell again. So basically, you're just relying on the dice, and then on top of that, if your opponent is in range, they can try to dispel your spell. So plus, there's blessings that can do it and stuff like that. So while magic is really important, it can sometimes be a little tricky to pull off. And I think you summon those totems. So I think unless it says there's a restriction, I think in theory you could summon one every turn. But I doubt
If
that's likely to
if the
happen.
dice
So.
if the dice cooperate. I know,
Right. Exactly.
I think the casting value for both totems is about a 14 or so. So you kind of figure on 2d10, that should be like, statistically you're looking at like an 11 average.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I got it off twice over 3 games. So it only really was impactful the one game. And even then I don't think I needed it.
Hmm.
But then the backbone of the army, there's 2 5-man units of Sheetka warriors with war clubs, and so they've got a very basic stat line, but they have the heavy armor, and so that heavy armor kind of makes up for, no throwing weapons and just having a standard 5 fight. But I think the 5 fight was kind of deceptive, because with the war clubs they get bumped up to 6,
Yeah.
and when they charge they get bumped up to 7, and then with rerolls, which we'll get into in a little bit, that 7's pretty reliable on the charge.
Hmm.
The Kuna Linagai Hunters, they were the archers. I thought they were pretty good. They didn't have any armor, but they had a shoot value of 6,
Yeah.
and so compared to like the Inuit, who are all shoot 5,
Most archers are shoot 5, so that's
yeah,
strong.
that shoot 6 felt pretty good, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to bumping them up with some ravens so that they could shoot 6 at long range.
Yeah. Yeah. They're also relatively cheap. Obviously, that doesn't matter for this game because we're just playing with the stuff in the starter box. But for the purposes of list building later, 67 points is not a ton to have that shoot 6. And again, I'm sure there's other archers that are shoot 6, but all the ones that I use are shoot 5. So
Yeah, yeah. Well,
every day.
67 points, that's not bad, and you can bump them up with light armor for 2 points a guy. So you're looking at maybe 77 points in a real game.
Yeah.
The stars of the show, though, were the Ganakadet.
Hmm.
So those are the quadrupedal orcas, and I was kind of nervous about using them at first, because on paper I thought their stats just looked really crappy. Like, their fight's not that good, their save's not that good. They only have 2 attacks each with at no strength. So compared to like the polar bears that the Inuit have, like they are definitely lacking in the strength and survivability um, areas. But their Song of the Ganakadet and their luck talent were just incredible. Because what the Song of the Ganakadet does is it gives any unit within 10 inches of them uh, gets the luck rule, and luck lets you re-roll a single failed, shoot, fight, or save roll. But there's no limitation on how many times that can happen per turn. So if you charge in with your Sheikah warriors, and you get overwatched and get some defensive fire, and one of them fails a save, oh, Kanakadet reroll. Okay, they pass the save now. Then you're in the fight itself. You miss one of your attacks. You're like, all right, Kanakadet reroll. Okay, and then let's say you get hit, you fail save. Oh, Ganakadet reroll. And so just getting that consistent rerolls was incredible. Um, I did make the mistake. in every single game though of just charging them in to something. I think it was also kind of because like I was like, let's see what happens here. Let's see if they really are bad in combat, and
They're kind of squishy and they're not hitting
they're
super
really bad
hard.
in combat.
Yeah.
I think they died in. Did they die in our game?
I think I brought him down to 1 before we called the
Okay.
game.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the most they survived. Every other game they got completely wiped out.
It's
But
deceiving because they look like they should be predators, right? They're kind of a mix of a killer whale and a wolf, and that's like what people call them. So it's like you'd think these things would be real good attack pieces, but it's definitely not what they're statted for. They're statted to be support pieces, which you
yeah,
know, for most of our game at least, that's how you had them. They were kind of standing in your back line. Just I think one turn you just passed with them. You were just like, I'm just gonna have them stand here because they're doing their job. Those
yeah,
luck rerolls are incredibly potent, especially with an 8 save. So there were
right.
definitely activations where you were, charging me, getting a reroll on your attack, getting a reroll on your save when I defensive fire against you, then attacking me, getting a reroll on your attack. I attack you back, you get a reroll on your. It was 4+ rerolls, and it was just incredible the value that you got out of that.
Yeah, they were really good, and they're only 67 points, which didn't matter for this tournament, but that's going to matter for the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. These might be one of the only units that I would say make sense to run without their max health upgrade in a normal tournament. Most models you really want to give them the upgrade for more health because it's just for the points. It's keeps them in the fight much longer. But these guys, I think the right way to play them is just keep them behind everything. Just don't even put them near your opponent. I mean, obviously some opponents will be able to get into them, but run maybe 2 groups of them and just have them spread out, covering your whole army, and don't engage because you're getting so much value out of those luck rerolls. It's
right. Yeah,
probably
no,
right.
that's 100% what I'm thinking. I know in
Yeah,
the 1,000 point list that I'm kind of brainstorming, I have 2 units of them, no upgrades, just the basic 3 guys. I mean, they're 67 points a unit. I think I think if you were to upgrade their wounds, they end up costing like 50% more. So it's
right.
just, I mean, for a piece that's not good in combat, that doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and if your opponent's going to really commit to taking them out, they're probably if you're cagey with them, they're going to spend enough time and effort going after them that it's probably a pretty good trade. Like if they put a
hmm
really important piece in your backfield to take out the Ganacadet, maybe the Ganacadet does a little chip damage to them, and then the rest of your army is just going to kill whatever it was that took them out. And if you have another unit of them, you're still getting all your luck rolls as long as everybody's close to each other. So
right. Yeah. Yeah, and then the last piece of the army, and the least impactful, was the river terrain that you can bring and set up. And I think, and no, not even I think, no one stepped foot in a river the entire game. Especially with the starter box, the only unit you have that can even go in the river is the Ganakadet, and
yeah.
you don't want them in there because it's all the way off on one side of the board. You want them just behind your front lines, just ready to give that luck bubble.
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of the starter box tournament. I think it's a really good format. It's great for new players. It's great for people who want to start building a list because you pay $50 or $55 or whatever it is, and you basically get $120 worth of models.
Yeah.
And that's actually the sale price. That's actually not the retail price. The retail price is more than that, but that's what they say. Um, you basically get enough, about a half of an army for $55, and you get to play in the tournament, which has great prize support. So it's just incredible value. Um, the but the nature of the event is everybody just gets their starter box. The starter boxes are not balanced against each other perfectly. They roughly mirror each other in terms of like the unit types and the model counts, but they don't mirror each other in terms of points. So there are armies that are like shy of 400 points, and there are armies that are over 500 points. It's supposed to be a casual game type, and one of the other casualties of this is because you're just using your starter box and the mage, your whole faction's kind of identity, their thing, aside from the fact that they have crazy good saves, is that they're really good at navigating on water. But you don't get to take the canoes. And you need the canoes to be
Right.
good on water, so it doesn't really do you any good.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a funny quirk of this game type, but it seemed to work out reasonably well anyway. And, given some slight changes to some of the scenarios we were playing, they may have come into play, but it's just kind of the nature of a weird event type. But the next one will be a full tournament, so it'll matter a lot more.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I hope the dates line up and I can go. Also, I hope I could get everything painted by then, because one thing with the people of the Totem, they look difficult to paint. There's a lot of detail on all the armor pieces, and if you're trying to do that totemic look, I think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a lot more difficult than if you're painting, Inuit, which are the only other faction I painted, and they seemed pretty straightforward to paint.
I think it depends on what you want to do. I'd have to look at some historical pictures of the armor, but the armor is all wooden slats. So I would say that a they'd be a good candidate for at least your first pass to just do slap chop with some speed paint or some contrast to get the wood slats down. And then if you want to go in and add like paint on top of that, because I'm sure they had designs and things
Hmm.
to go on top, you can then go in and add some freehand. And I bet you'd get a lot of impact out of a paint job for not a ton of work. But I guess it really depends on how you want to do it, I guess.
Yeah, and I've been researching some of the. I think that the tribe they're inspired from is the Tlingit. I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
But a lot of their armor did look pretty colorful, at least,
right.
what I've been able to find online. It looks like there's lots of like reds, blues, and like yellows in them.
Yeah.
Um, but it'll be a fun little challenge.
Yeah, they're definitely unique. It'll be an interesting paint job. I have some of them. I haven't started working on them yet, but I was thinking about it. And the more detail the model has, generally, the better speed paint type paint works on them. At least as a a base coat. Um, so that might be one way to tackle it. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what you do with it. You have some really cool rivers made up already, so
Yeah,
that
that
part's
part's
done.
done. Yeah. The problem is I'm gonna have to recreate them on some of the bases now. I uh
Mm,
I didn't glue the Ganakadet down for the tournament because I kind of thought like, oh, maybe I'll put some like cork on there and then have like the water crashing up against it. So I did that. I was actually gluing the cork on and sizing it today and cleaning up another unit of Ganakadet who are going to be actually like in a river, and I'll try to put the water like above like their feet or something.
nice. That'd be cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So we basically have, again, almost every army has a similar kind of configuration as far as this tournament goes. We have your leader with his two bodyguards. You have two melee focused units of 5. You have a range unit of 5. You have your group of monsters for you is the Gana Cadet, and then you have the magic user.
Mhm.
Um, Talk to me about your first game. I actually don't think you told me about your first game, so this will be news to me. If you're enjoying this video and you want to support the channel, then there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. The first would be to pick up some merchandise through my merch store. You can grab a t-shirt, a hoodie, a mug, a sticker, all sorts of cool stuff like that. You can also shop using my affiliate links, so if you're going to make any purchases from any of these companies, you can use the links in the description below to make your purchases, and it will go directly to supporting the channel at no extra cost to you. There's also a link for my Ko-fi if you would just like to give me a tip, or my Patreon if you want to support me longer term. I have a bunch of different tiers there, and there are all sorts of benefits available to people, such as early access to videos, ad-free videos, the opportunity to vote in polls about upcoming content, and extra entries into the giveaways that I run occasionally. But if none of that is your cup of tea, no problem at all. Just make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and leave a like on the video. It actually helps a tremendous amount. And if you want to go the extra mile, then consider sharing the video out with some friends who you think might find it interesting. The YouTube algorithm is not kind to small YouTubers, so that helps a whole bunch. Other than that, consider joining the Discord, also linked in the description, where you can come and hang out with me and the rest of the community and talk games. But with that, let's get right back to the video.
Yeah, so this one we were doing a modified gather the Anuxuk caches, and I was playing with my friend who came down with me, and he was running Mayans, and he won the roll off to pick which way he wanted, and he picked ever changing because he had tried ever living last game, so I think he wanted to see how the other half lived, and that was I lucked out on that because Maya with ever living is just so difficult if they get the Fury of the Aloosh off.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought the ever living were pretty good. I think I might like ever changing for this faction a little bit better though. Um, our setup was pretty straightforward. We put the objectives kind of. He put one towards his line. I mean, as far as you could in the middle, and I put one more towards mine, and we just kind of got into a brawl in the middle. And I think it came down to some dice rolls. He had some very bad luck with his dice rolls. I had some pretty decent luck with my dice rolls, and I was just able to mop up his forces. And I think the Children of Zabalba I was worried about, and they charged a unit of Shika warriors, and they only got like
Bounced.
they only got one casualty off. And then the Pierce, extra attack didn't do anything. So they were just locked there in combat. And I think I finished them off with some archers because I
Yeah.
was like close enough to them that, I was getting the -1 from shooting into combat, but I just focus shot. And, their save's not that good.
Mhm.
So then it was just a matter of just like kind of cleaning up and just getting into fights because the Maya are really tough considering most of them have a base save of a 6 before you even get into the light armor. So they had pretty similar saves um to the people of the totem.
Yeah, it's interesting because Maya, their main strength is they're just really good offensively. Although the starter box, it's kind of less true.
Hmm.
But they are also, that's a good point. They are also generally going to have pretty good saves. But I think the problem is that they're pretty good offensively. But when you have an 8 save, there's a pretty good chance it doesn't matter. So if you're just
Right.
going in the middle and trading each other, the Children of Zabalba are, if you can get a really good round of attacks in on the right target, they can be devastating, but they're
Hmm.
fragile. They're not super fragile, but they're relatively fragile for that army. And in the starter box tournament, they have 1 health, so you just got to get 3 through, and they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, in a small game like this, dice rolls are going to have much more of an impact because you can't. There's not as much you can do to mitigate a bad round of dice rolls, so it's always,
Well, I mean,
by nature of it.
with the people of the totem, one thing you could do is have the Gana Cadet
It's
behind your
every
line.
rolls.
And just those rerolls, they just carried the day.
Yeah.
I did get um uh a little reckless with him, and I had them charge his warlord.
Mm,
Luckily, the noble bodyguards were dead, so it was just the warlord, and
mm.
it was standard loadout, so he didn't have a huge Makahedal. But even then, they did nothing in the charge, and he killed all 3 of them. But it actually turned out that worked in my favor
Yeah.
because I had the devotion endo-cannibalism ritual in honor of Gaia, and that was the only unit I lost the entire game. So having them
Got
as
your
kind of
point.
like a sacrifice piece just to get your devotion. It's not ideal, but they're cheap enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big um one of the big strengths of this game is that, you know, it's not always just about fighting. Sometimes you want to do things like sacrifice a model because you need to get points. What I was gonna say is one decent use for them, especially later in a game, might be to just throw them into body block just to hold your opponent up. Because as long as they survive that first round of combat, now your opponent can't run away and go after whatever important thing, either objective or another key piece that they want to take of yours. Just treating them as a roadblock is also useful
Yeah.
once they've served their main purpose of like keeping your guys alive first couple of turns.
Well, I did try to do that against you in round 2, but that didn't work out so hot with them.
I mean, the unit you charged was not going to do anything anyway because you already had it tied up. But yeah, let's get into round 2. So this one was the weird one because this is a modified version of an incursion scenario, which I've never played. Incursion is supposed to be like a small, almost like a skirmish format for the game. It's the same rules and everything, but it's just a much smaller format to play the game if people want to. And I actually really haven't messed with it much. Um, but this scenario was basically there's a building in the middle of the field, and we have to run in there and fight over a MacGuffin.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's on a D6 roll of 1 to 2, you get the MacGuffin, and if you have the MacGuffin, you can't fight with that unit anymore, but you get +1 to your save.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's both swingy because you have to you have a 1 in 3 chance to actually find the MacGuffin once you're in the room, and then there's the only way to score is you get a point if you pick it up, if you find it. You get another point if you take it from your opponent. So you have to, if your opponent's holding it, you either have to make them flee or die, and then they drop it and you can pick it up, and you get a point if you picked it up. You can only get 2 points that way, but the big thing, and this I actually didn't realize till halfway through our game, was that if you were holding it at the end of the game, you got an extra 2 points.
Yep.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a save of an 8, and then you hold it and you get a save of a 9.
Right.
With a
Right. That
reroll.
that 9 save with the reroll,
Wild.
that was pretty tasty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so take us through that game from the beginning. So I was playing Chachapoya, the other half of the starter box. I'd never played them before coming into this, so it was a fun experience to try to see how they go. Their weird thing is that they can infiltrate, so a lot of my models started basically touching that building, and giving me a little bit of a head start, but you used follow on your first activation and effectively just completely nullified that, and then we were just fighting over the middle.
Yeah, we just I mean, I did kind of my standard deployment, Warlord in the middle, flanked by 2 units of Shika warriors, Gna Cadet behind, archers behind, Medicine Carver somewhere, not really doing anything. And I did the follow, just ran everybody up, tried to just take up as much space as possible so that you would have to cut through my guys to try and get the objective.
Mhm.
And it kind of just evolved into a big brawl in the middle. I know I was really worried about your Dreadwings just because of the number of attacks they could put out and the fact that they are they strength 1 or 2?
Strength 1.
Strength 1. Okay. But just, I mean, 9 attacks at strength 1. I was worried about them. So I definitely wanted to try to get rid of them as soon as possible. So I
Yeah.
used the I was ever changing this time. So I used the
The
what
magic
is that?
missile.
Yeah, the magic missile blessing. And I killed 2 of your guys, but the other one he kind of hung around for the rest of the game
Yeah,
until he got reinforcements.
I spent most of my first 2 turns trying to heal them because I could bring 2 of them
Mhm.
back, but I failed multiple times, so that I ended up just kind of keeping them in that one guy in the backfield so you wouldn't finish them off. The funny part was I ran a unit up. I think it was turn 1 because we were so close to each other already. I ran a unit up because my blessing was, or my devotion, my secondary was to specifically have that unit die. And I ran them into one of your units because of your 8 saves. Our stat lines are very similar. We're fighting on the same value. We have a similar weapon, but you have 1 point better save, and then also you have the rerolls from the Gna Cadet. I charged them in, did no damage. I think you hit me a bunch, but I passed my save, so it was effectively no result. You then charged me with 2 other units. So I had 3 rounds of fighting you, and I think total I did 1 damage to you.
Yeah.
And you managed to kill them, I think, very first thing in turn 2, if I remember right. Which got me a
I
point,
don't
but
re-
also
Mhm.
they did nothing.
Right.
So, it was tough. And then there was another unit that charged my warlord, and they basically spent the entire game just standing there trying to hit each other, and we all passed our saves. So I think at the end of the game we were all, if not full health, we were very close.
I
Just
think you killed one of the guys from that unit, but yeah,
yeah,
they just
it
were.
was
It
just
was an ineffectual slap fight. Yeah.
every round, just roll the hit. Okay, you passed your saves. Okay, well, keep going.
Yeah.
And we're just standing there right in the middle of the field.
Well, one thing that really worked out well for me is that when you were trying to keep your Dreadwings alive, I think you were thinking that I was going to move my Medicine Carver up and just shoot them with his 2 bowman bodyguards, but really I was trying to get him up
Your
so
devotion.
that I could get my devotion, call the storm, and get him in your half.
Yeah.
So he was able to just sneak in, call the storm, and then just kind of like tuck behind a unit of Shika warriors afterwards and just kind of hang out. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
like
managed to. I probably, had we not called it, I probably would have killed the magic user because I think she was down to no bodyguards by the
mhm.
end, and it was only like turn 4. Um, but yeah, that was. I didn't think that was what we were gonna do, but the Dreadwind was sitting there exposed and ready to just take. I mean, you'd only had 2 shots with the bows, but still, yeah, if the dice go bad, then I lose that whole unit, and that would have been devastating. So, I was definitely worried about that, and then I was surprised when you when you
Yeah.
grabbed the point out of it. So that was funny.
Yeah. And so I got the relic on my warlord, and then I think I had the next turn as well. I
Yeah.
immediately used the fire within blessing to march him 10 inches away. I forgot that people could have followed him, but there wasn't really anybody around who I wanted to move that much.
Yeah, and you were
Um,
better off because we had basically had this kind of line of scrimmage where we were all fighting. You snuck him in, grabbed the objective, snuck him back out, and you could have moved some guys, but honestly, you're better off keeping them there because they were just body blocking the whole rest of my army.
Right.
By
Yeah.
then, so now you're sitting there with a 9 save, and the only thing I could do to not let you just win by the 2 points is to make you flee.
Hmm.
Now, unfortunately, my army is not set up for very much range, which would be the real way to stack a bunch of Brave on any particular model in your army. Because otherwise, I got to beat you in melee, and that's just not happening. Because you're
Right.
passing all your saves. So there was basically one option that I had. By then, I brought my Dead Wings back. I had them back up to 3. And I basically had one option. I could charge them. I could activate them last, run them, because they're really fast, run them into the middle of the fight, but not engage anyone. And then activate them first on the next turn, charge them over to your Warlord. And if I did manage to make him lose in melee, which he couldn't fight me, so there was I basically had to put any damage on him,
Hmm.
make him take a check, and flee. And if I did that successfully, it would have probably it would have either tied the game or I would have won by 1 point. It would have come down to the secondaries basically because I couldn't then pick up the objective with them because they're monsters.
Right.
And I successfully got the initiative activated first, charged over there. 9 attacks, hit with most of them. You passed all your saves. That was the end of my my
Yeah.
chances.
Yeah. That was. I mean, the 9+ save with just. I mean, I only had the one tough reroll, but you know, still that was more than enough. Not.
Yeah,
It's hard to beat a 9+.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Again, it's one of those things where like in a full size game, like this is a weird scenario. It's not one you would normally be playing, but even in a full size game, there would be more things you would have to be able to try to deal with some of those. If I had a bunch of archers shooting at him, that would have made your life a lot more difficult. But definitely well played on your end, sneaking in there, grabbing the objective while you were kind of holding all the rest of my army down. And I had one Hail Mary play. It was a long shot, and it didn't work out. So you took it. I think it ended up
Yeah.
being. I think we called it because there wasn't really anything else that could happen. I think it ended up being like 4-1, unless we scored the secondaries.
Right. That sounds right. Yeah.
And then we get to round
Round
3,
3.
top table.
Yeah. Yep. So this was Liberators and Captives. It was modified a little bit so that I think each side only had one captive, and then there was the one captive in the middle.
Mhm.
And I was playing against one of the younger players who had a Taino army, and
I'm shocked that he did that well with a Taino army. Taino should be the most underpowered in this format, and they're very tricky to use. So I'm really impressed that he did as well as he did with Taino. That's super impressive.
yeah, that was. I mean, I think I've never played them aside from this game, but I know speed is supposed to be one of their strengths,
Mhm.
and he definitely showed that in our game.
Mhm.
Um, because I kind of did my more central deployment. I gave the captive to my one unit of Shika warriors.
Mhm.
Um, he did something that I thought was a little unusual. Because the starter box comes with 2 units of Siba warriors. Instead of fielding them as 2 units, he did 1 unit of 10,
Mhm.
and he also put the Nitaino in there.
Mhm.
So he had 11 guys in 1 unit, kind of creating like a little Death Star almost.
I think
And
technically you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have a set list in this format,
okay,
but whatever.
well, I don't know. Maybe he did that every round.
No, no, I
I
mean
think he
like
might
you're
have done.
supposed to just have how it's organized in the starter box
Oh,
is
okay.
supposed to be 2 units of 5, but
Okay, well, so he gave that 11-man unit the captive,
Mhm.
and he put them all the way in his back corner.
Mhm.
And so when I saw him do that, I was like, oh, okay, so he's kind of ceding the middle to me, and so I'm gonna have my entire army fighting his civilians, his general, his spellcaster, and his turtles.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I could definitely take them. He went first, and he has follow as well on the Kasike, and
Mhm.
he ran up. The Naborias had quick as the wind, so they were basically able to get the objective. If not turn one, then they were like right about to get it. Their first activation. He got the objective, tried to run away. I marched my guys up, trying to get into a fight. Uh, I was ever changing here, and that actually helped me a lot because I used the Crux Earthquake
Mhm.
right before the Naborius were going to activate after they had the objective. So this would have been like round 2, to just slow
So
them down and stop their quick as the wind shenanigans.
And that makes a huge difference when you're talking about quick as the wind. You're basically cutting it down by 6 inches is his movement.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, we had a big brawl in the middle, but he was outnumbered just from the start, and I kind of slowly uh chopped through his guys with my 8 armor save. My medicine carver actually was able to get off a totem this game, which was kind of his first.
Mm.
It was the totem of ridicule, which that one's really nice. I think I like that one more than the totem of celebration. So that's where an enemy within 10 inches of the center of the totem, they have to roll 2 dice whenever they make a brave test and take the worst result. So that
That's
was,
brutal.
yeah, especially since Taino don't have very good bravery.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
And again, another weird thing of the format, but they have a lot of ways in their army that they can mitigate for that. But you need to hire outside the starter box. You can get a whole bunch of units with whatever the ability is that gives you +1 to your brave checks, but you only get one in the starter, so it's not
Right.
gonna help you.
Yeah. I know. I lost the Ganakadet pretty early in this game. Because my Shika warriors had kind of chopped up his warlord's bodyguard, so his warlord was just, by himself with one wound remaining, and I thought like, oh, the Ganakadet, they could surely take off that last wound and not all die in the process, and they all died in the process. So they did not do really anything that game. Um, but I was able to slow down his Naborias and catch them up with my warlord. He was able to, him and his bodyguards were able to, kill a good amount of them, but then he brought some of them back to life with his blessing. Eventually, you know, I mopped up that combat, and then he had to bring his big unit of Siba warriors in to
Hmm.
try to salvage that. But by that point, it was my entire army against minus the Ganakadet against his Siba warriors, and they just couldn't chop through the 8 armor save.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Taino's thing is they're not particularly fighty. The turtles are okay, but most of the army is not particularly fighty. They're really about numbers and movement. That's why it's interesting that he chose to put them in 10, all together in a unit of 10. Because what I would have done in that scenario is split the Sea Warriors up, give the Naborius, the villagers, the objective, and keep them in the back corner and just never do anything with them because
Yeah.
they're 40 points. Who cares? Like, just keep them away from your opponent so you don't have to worry about it, and then fight in the middle. So it's interesting that he chose to put most of his army in the back, not engaging. That may be just because he hasn't played that scenario before, because he's new or whatever. But
Right.
interesting.
I think he was hoping that the speed of the Naborius would let him get the objective and then run away before I
Mm,
could catch up to him.
yeah,
But that earthquake really messed up his plans.
yeah.
I thought the Guardians of the Karakara Cole were pretty cool. Just the fact that they have a random number of attacks. That seems like it could be really swingy, but like I think he got um it was like 13 or 15 attacks in on the charge. Uh and he I think he killed like 2 or 3 guys on the charge, which was pretty good. They hung around afterwards after they lost the combat, but yeah, the turtles they were no joke. I liked the turtles. I thought they were pretty cool.
Yeah, I've only had them in one game, and there's a few. One thing is, I think just for my playstyle, I don't like the swinginess of of the random attacks. In the game that I played with them, I think the most I ever rolled on an individual turtle was 3 attacks. So I was charging all 3 of them and getting 7 attacks, and it was like, okay, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
um, and I think the problem is for their points, if they're not just absolutely obliterating something on a charge, they're not. You're gonna lose them right away. Like, they're not particularly tanky, and they also don't synergize as well with the rest of the army.
Hmm.
One of the things you really want with Taino is a lot of activation dice, and they're pretty expensive. You can give them 2 health, and you can do all these things, but to me, it kind of conflicts with what you want a lot of the army to do. I have to mess with it more. Maybe I'll change my mind on that. But
Yeah.
after playing a handful of games with Taino, I think I dropped them out of my list and was like, yeah, well, I'd rather have 100 just dudes and the big behemoth instead of having any of the turtles, which sucks because they're like my favorite models. I love the models; they're great.
Yeah, they're very cool models, and I think I saw on the Discord someone painted them like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That looked really cool. That kind of makes me want to pick up a set of them, but I do not want to paint a horde army, so I don't think the Taino would be right for me.
They're not that hard to paint because they're mostly naked. So
Well, yeah, that's fair.
if you can get the skin down, it's not so bad. I hear you. It's a very big army. 1,000 points of Taino is, I don't know, probably 50, 60 models. It's a lot.
Yeah,
Depends on how you build it, obviously.
all turtles.
Yeah,
Turtles all the
turtles
way down.
anyway. You'll never score a point, but you'll win on the you'll get the moral victory for sure.
Yeah, it's just a cool factor. And maybe like green stuff, little turtle shells for all your other units to put on their backs.
Yeah,
Yeah, that could be fun.
hell yeah. So, having now played 3 rounds with the people of the Totem, thoughts overall on how the army works? Obviously, 8 saves are fantastic. Luck is great. Any other thoughts on how they run?
I mean, you kind of summed it up there. 8 saves are fantastic. Luck is great. I'm a little I'm very curious how the rivers are going to work.
Mm.
I think the coastal raider rule seems cool,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm kind of worried with, depending on the scenario, if coming in from that just 6-inch wide kind of edge of the board, or just, traveling down that river in a boat, if it's just going to get you too far out of the action right away. Because I mean, sure, you could go really fast with the war canoes because their movement speed is equal to, the number of models times 2. So if you have a full 10-man unit, you're marching 40, you're moving 20. Like, that sounds really good.
It's the whole board
But
almost.
yeah, that's basically the entire board. But then you're on the far left or far right side of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then how are you gonna kind of sweep in there? I'm kind of thinking it could be interesting to put the warlord in a canoe, or the warlord within 5 inches of a 10-man unit within the canoe, and then have him just march turn 1, so the canoe could go it's up to 40 inches, so you kind of get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But then it's also a question of, okay, well, I don't know about large units in this game. It just seems like you're asking to get uh, pinned to death and just get lots of brave status markers on you. So they're not that effective. I do think that is probably the way to beat the people of the Totem, because their bravery is not great. The Shika warriors, who are your mainstay, they're a brave of I'm looking at this right now.
I think it's 8.
It's a 7.
Is it a 7?
It's, according to the Crux creator.
Okay.
Crux creator could be wrong,
Boss.
but it's a 7 on the leader. So without the leader, you're looking at 6s. Yeah. So I think stacking the pins on them would be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a way to get around that 8 save. Is just if I hit you in range, you take a pin at least, and then if I get enough of them on you, I can, and actually, I think in our game, the one unit that I got rid of was because I got enough. I think between my blowguns and my unit that charged them, I got enough brave on them that they fled, and that was the only way I really eliminated a unit. So that's definitely a way to counterplay them.
Now, one rules interaction I'm kind of curious about, because the war canoes have their own separate save. So I wonder what would happen if you have a unit that's in their canoe, and then their canoe gets shot, because the basic warriors don't have swim. So I don't know if they would, and the terrain is supposed to be, I think, impassable terrain for units without swim. So I don't know if they would all just drown. Or
well, if that's the case,
maybe,
then having 2 health on the canoe with like a 6 or a 7 save, that's
it's only a 6.
real risky.
Yeah. Maybe it's you can't actually shoot the canoe until
they're out of it.
Yeah.
That would make sense, especially with it being that fragile.
Yeah. But one of the rules for the canoe does say that you can put prisoners on there. So that could be kind of a dirty trick, is maybe just put a unit of archers with a prisoner for the captive scenario. Just be like, cool, you can't even get to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't. The last time I played against them was like in alpha. I was like, it was like a playtest game. Basically, they were showing us the rules before it ever, they'd been announced, but they'd never shown any of it publicly. And I got to play a game against Brandon from the Danger Planet, and I think the real big thing with the water features and the canoes and everything is that it allows you to do some things with objectives that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And the problem is it really risks you overcommitting something and just making them vulnerable. Now, having follow on the leader helps a lot, just to kind of keep the rest of the army, allow them to keep up with you. But I think it's going to depend a lot on the rest of the terrain on the table, and I think it's also going to depend a lot on the matchup. So, for example, against Taino, it may not matter as much because Taino can go wherever they want, and they can run all the way across. They can do laps on the long edges of the board if they want to. The Aztecs, who I used to play much more often, are extremely slow. So if you're able to run up the side of the board, grab a captive, and run back before I even get close to you, or all I can do is shoot you a couple times from range, that's going to be huge because then I have to run, I have to keep chasing you across the other side of the board to get the captive back. But obviously, it depends on the scenario, depends on your secondaries. There's a lot there, and I think in some matchups they're going to do really well, and I think some that might not come into play. It sounds like, at least in this event, it never came into play, and that's partially because you didn't have any canoes, but I think there will be games where it will be much more impactful, for sure.
Yeah. And I know I kind of have I'm kind of spitballing with a 1,000-point list, just taking the stuff from the starter box and just kind of adding to it. Um, without factoring in upgrades, I'm at about 959 points.
Mhm.
But that includes, the units from the starter box, adding a unit of Gna Cadet, adding another unit of archers, adding a unit of the Raven Scouts. Them I'm not really too sure about because they are incredibly vulnerable with only a save of a 4.
Yeah.
But they really don't. They have no offensive output at all. It's just really about the spy tokens to get rid of the long range, the penalty for shooting at long range.
Well, also keep in mind, because they have fly, they can't be charged unless they
True,
are choosing to land, so they are only vulnerable to ranged.
true.
Or
And I
harpoon.
guess if somebody's shooting them, they're not shooting somebody who's more valuable.
Plus, you have dodge, so they're a little harder to hit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And they're
and
2 health
I'm curious
each.
to try them out. They are 2 health each. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if your opponent's spending a lot of time going after them, that's a pretty decent trade, because it's gonna take them a little while to get through it, through all the health. It's 6 health for a basic unit of them, and if you're using dodge cleverly and they're only shooting at them, they're gonna spend a couple rounds wasting all their archer shots.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
talk
true.
to me about the spy tokens. What's the deal with those?
Okay, so the spy token. So as an action, the Ravens can designate a unit within 20 inches as its target, and you mark them with a spy token. Um, a unit can only ever have 1 spy token on them, and you can only target 1 unit with a spy token. Now, I don't know if that's 1 unit per unit of Raven Scouts or 1 unit period. I would
I would
assume it's
assume it's the
per.
former, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would go with. But I'm not planning on taking 2 units, so that doesn't really matter for me. But a unit with a spy token, they can't benefit from cover or stealth, and friendly units shooting at the target do not suffer a -1 penalty for long range. So I mean, being able to shoot your bows at 20 inches, ignoring cover, ignoring stealth, ignoring the long range penalty on your base shoot of a 6,
it's pretty good.
that's really good.
Because then you focus and you get a 7, and there's really
Yeah.
not much your opponent can do to reduce that because
No,
you're
there's
ignoring it.
not.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. I
69 points is a little. It's not bad, but it's a little steep considering that that's the only real impact I see them having. They're not doing objectives for the most part. They're not fighting.
right.
Um, but they're gonna be annoying, and they're getting you an activation die. So I could see them being viable, especially if you're going to bring a bunch of archers. You could really shut down. You put a spy token on a really important unit your opponent has, and then just have everyone lay into them with their bows. That's going to be a pretty bad time for that unit.
That's true. They also have advanced deployment, so they could be useful as like maybe like your first unit. I wouldn't do this against anyone but Chachapoya, just to shut down their Their
Infiltrate.
infiltrate ability. Just kind
Yeah.
of put them in the middle of the board, be like, cool, you can't deploy within 15
Yeah.
of them
Here's a
now.
15-inch bubble.
Yeah.
You're stuck. You can't go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. How far does advanced deployment let you go?
Advanced deployment says they can deploy outside the friendly deployment zone greater than 15 inches from any enemy unit.
Okay, so it's infiltrate without the ability to deploy on a subsequent turn.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. The only downside to that is I think they just die if you put them right in the middle of the board. But depending on the scenario, that might be a trade you want to make.
Right. I mean, maybe put them in. Oh, would they benefit from cover if they're flying?
That's a good question.
Oh, flying
This
units never receive cover bonuses and can be targeted with shoot or magic missile attacks at any time. Okay, so that answers that.
this weekend was the first time I ever played with a flying unit, so I'm not that
Okay.
familiar with the fly rules.
Okay.
But that's good to know that they can't benefit from cover. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also thinking of taking a big 10-man unit of the Sheikah warriors with spears and putting them in a canoe. I feel like just launching those 10 men just deep into your opponent's territory and having them kind of do like a pincer maneuver to get rid of some archers or just get rid of some other targets. I think that could be good. I'm leery about putting too many eggs in one basket though.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, I tend to run things with very few exceptions. I tend to run things at minimum model count because you want the unit activation dice. You don't want to be as vulnerable to brave. Somebody can. If you have a 10-man unit, that's a lot of points, and if they stack enough brave on them, you're just basically out of the game. So it's definitely risky. Although if you get them in the right place, it's going to be a real nightmare. Interesting that they can take spears. I think spears are potentially underrated. The ability to get a whole extra round of attacks off is pretty great. Both because you'll do damage, but also because it's another opportunity to put more brave on your target and make it more likely you're going to win the hand-to-hand combat, which is really important, especially when most of their attacks are going to bounce off of you.
And it's another opportunity to use the Kanakade reroll.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Spears are strength 1, but they don't add 1 to your attack. War clubs
Correct.
are 1 and 1, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd almost always prefer to have another round of attacks versus a 1 point better stat on the charge.
Right. Well, but if you're doing when you're using thrown weapons, either charging or defending against a charge, it's -1 to the shoot, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So, all right. So you're getting an attack on a 4 versus getting a fight on a 6. Yeah. No, I think the spears seem really good. I kind of want to use both spears and the war clubs, depending on. Yeah, I think you need
Yeah,
both.
I was gonna say I think I could see a place for both. Obviously, yeah. I mean, having the lower stats is not spectacular, but the likelihood is you're going to at least get 1 or 2 hits in when you're charging, and put a brave out on your opponent, and that's really what I want them for. And if they do some blink damage, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would maybe make sense to have like multiple units that have both loadouts, and using the spear guys as your sort of vanguard, and having the other guys be the second line to be a little bit more defensive, because if you're using them effectively, they can be a real threat. The other thing is if they're defensive firing, you are also getting another opportunity to attack your opponent when they're trying to attack you. So that's
Right.
that's pretty big. So if they're the first line, they're kind of either making the first charge or receiving the first charge, and then you can have your other models come in and double up. I think that's a pretty good move. I would probably run both. Do they make models with spears? Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah, there's so 2 of them come with the warlord, and then
Oh,
it's
that's right.
just a different blister pack for the spears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I was gonna run the behemoth. I think the behemoth looks pretty good. I mean, with a 9 save, 3 wounds base, the aquatic regeneration. The aquatic regeneration doesn't seem super great because unless your terrain just has a lot of water on it,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're kind of stuck in your, you know, 6-inch wide river. Um, But I don't know. I think a shoot of 6 and a fight of 7 seem pretty decent on the behemoth.
Yeah, move 6. They have 1 activation die, I assume.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not expensive for a behemoth, which is interesting. 106 points is definitely on the low end. Um,
But they
six.
can
Oh, okay.
they can push stuff around with the water spout.
Okay, now I'm understanding it. So it's the Susuito with 2 heads, and that's why you get extra attacks. Each head gets
So
2 attacks plus the.
each head gets 2 attacks, and each head gets a ranged attack with the water spout.
Got it. Okay.
And now I'm not sure about the water spout because it says ranged 0 to 20. So I guess it doesn't have a long range. That's just its one range band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Um, and it's got Dead Man's Chill, so it ignores armor. And if you get a wound through, you get to push him.
Mm-hmm. That's some good anti-people of the totem deck.
Yeah, that's good. That's good for the mirror match.
Yeah. But honestly, the ability to just push your opponent away, it's pretty good. I mean, that blessing that lets you move any model on the board has come in clutch in multiple games for me. So the ability to just be like, "Oh, you're on that objective? No, you're not."
Yeah.
That seems pretty solid. And again, for the points, I could definitely see getting some use out of this guy. Did you put one of these in your 1,000-point list, or did it not?
I have put one in my 1,000-point list. I don't have one yet. I purchased it on Saturday when I was at the store, and they're going to ship it to me.
Nice.
The only problem I have with a 1,000-point list right now is, I'm at 959 points without any upgrades, and so that's it's gonna get rough trying to fit it in another caster level, trying to add some armor to my archers, and maybe adding another war canoe.
Yeah, I would probably avoid the armor on the archers. I mean, it depends on how you want to use them, but I would probably. So if you decide to go spears, they're free, so you don't have to worry about that. So your real big things would be the magic level, would be adding health to the Ganakadet, which is, maybe
I'm not adding health to the Ganakadet now.
Yeah, and then the other thing would be the leader. You could go to toughen 2, or give him extra bodyguards, or give him extra health.
Yeah.
Giving the leader the extra health is probably a good choice, and you have the points for it.
So right now I do have the 10-man unit of spear Shika warriors in there. I'm thinking maybe I'll drop some of them down so that I can then add bodyguards to the warlord, and maybe do like a 4-man with the add 2 bodyguards to the warlord's unit, drop the other Shika warrior unit down to 10, maybe get another canoe. And what are your thoughts on giving the wizard bodyguards?
It's another one of those things where it's like, it's kind of like the armor on the archers, right? It's like if you get in a position where that matters, that's probably not fixing it. Having an extra body or 2.
That's fair. Yeah.
Maybe there's an edge case where you'd be able to, countercharge somebody and stop them from killing the magic user. But if your opponent gets something into them, the difference between failing 2 saves and failing 3 saves is not that much if you're being charged by a unit at 5. And I personally, I would rather spend my points elsewhere, and if just trying to prevent them from ever getting close enough to the magic user. I tend to, anything that's not a combat unit, anything that I don't want to have in combat, I tend to not worry about adding extra health or damage to them. Now, changes in the game have made it so that the Chachapoya can potentially threaten your backline units much easier than a lot of other armies. The Taino with follow can potentially get a real good flanking maneuver in and take out your magic user. The people of the totem can cruise up the side in their canoes and get back there. So you do have to be a little bit more aware of that, but there's ways to counter all those things, right? If you deploy correctly, if you stay away from the river, if you.
Yeah.
So I tend not to spend my points on that. Certainly, if I had extra left over, I'd throw a bodyguard or 2. I don't think I've ever run a magic user with no bodyguards. but I probably don't, spend the points to jack them up to 5 or 4 bodyguards, 5 total, because it just seems like a
Well, I
waste.
mean, on the one hand, though, for the medicine carver, since he has totem caster, he can measure range from his totem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like level 2, you get your totem out 20 inches. Then you kind of have like a central area that you can cast from and not have to worry about him being as close to the fray. Which I mean,
Yeah,
I have to shave points from somewhere, and right now the medicine carver looks like he might be losing his 2 bodyguards.
yeah. So the other argument, the other counter argument to what I'm saying is any of the magic users that have bodyguards with ranged weapons are a little more useful because depending on your spells, if you're going to be in a position a lot of times where you want to cast one spell and then you don't have anything else to do, being
Hmm.
able to shoot and throw out a little bit more brave can be pretty useful. Um, if you're magic level 2, you probably want to cast both of your spells in most cases, but there have been circumstances where I was like, I'll just shoot my bows. And if you have 4 of them, it's going to make it much more likely you're going to hit something rather than 2. But I wouldn't. That's not your primary goal with them, so I probably wouldn't rely on that. And if you got to cut, that's where I would cut.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do think I want to pick up another canoe though. I'm not sure who I'm going to put in the canoe, but somebody's getting a canoe.
Well, you got to try some games with the canoes and see how it goes. In it, and again, having only played 2 games before this tournament, I'll say that a full size game is a very different beast, right? There's a lot more activations, there's a lot more things you have to worry about on your opponent's side, but you also have a lot more
Hmm.
options yourself. So it will definitely change the dynamic of the game quite a bit. So I'll definitely be curious after you've played some 1,000-point games with them, and made some tweaks and see how you like the canoes. Because again, the only time I played a full game against them was the rules were different. It's a bunch of stuff has changed since then, so I can't really speak to it.
Okay.
Um, do you think you're gonna primarily play these guys going forward, or are you gonna jump back into Inuits, or kind of do a little of both? What do you think?
I think it's going to depend. I mean, I kind of feel like since I just won the starter box tournament with them, that I kind of have to represent them for a little bit. Um, but the Inuit do have the advantage of I have a lot of stuff painted for them already. I have most of the starter box painted for them, minus the general and his bodyguards, and I have the Idrak painted, which everybody tells me they're not good, but they look super cool.
They do look super.
And I think that might be more important sometimes than how good you are on the table.
I agree. I definitely agree. Rule of cool wins every time for sure.
Yeah, and I think if you get ever changing with the Inuit and you cast the spell that gives them dread or
Mhm.
dreadful, I mean, so I think they have dodge, and then you add an additional -1 from the dread. It's like, all right, you're -2 to hit them with missiles, and -1 melee. That's making them a lot better.
I think the problem that Inuit have is that they have a lot of options, and a lot of them are really good. And so the stuff that's like kind of okay looks worse compared to the other choices that you have. Um, I think the way that people should run Inuit is just infantry heavy because their infantry is so good, and they
Mhm.
have a lot of cool things like they have the ox things. I forget what they're called. Um, that like sound kind of cool, but in practice they're not that good. And just having a big chunk of super hardy dudes to march up the board and make your opponent's life difficult, I think is a more effective way to run them. But
I mean, and
I
and
played
bear
against
bear
Inuit
sled
a lot.
bear sled seems pretty cool.
The bear sled is very good. And
Yeah.
the bear sled is maybe it needs to be changed because there's a bunch of objectives that the bear sled can do, which seems like it should not be able to do because it's a behemoth. But I think it counts as like it's a humanoid
Is it
and a
behemoth
behemoth.
or is it massive?
I forget. I think it's actually considered a behemoth. I could be wrong about that. I had a game in the last tournament I played where they were running a bunch of objectives with that thing, and I was like, it does not seem like they should be allowed to run objectives. That seems crazy because it's too much. Um,
Oh, you're right. It is a behemoth.
it is right. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, it's a Inuit behemoth general heroic figure.
Mhm. Yeah, it was something that required a heroic figure, and it didn't restrict it from behemoths. So I was like, that seems like it should be changed. But we played it as
Well,
it as it was
I
written.
mean, the fact that it has 4 strength 1 attacks and then an unstoppable charge on top. So your minimum strength 2, maximum strength 4. That's pretty nasty.
And it's fast, and it has a good save. It's
Save of 10. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, there's no way I'm killing it. So what do I do to stop you from just doing all your objectives? The answer
Yeah,
was
wow.
nothing.
It's got 7 attacks because the bears and the Tuvok master just fight separate.
It's real bad.
That's pretty good. I have one too. I just haven't put it together yet.
Yeah. Well, I'll be curious to see how things go once you take the 1,000 points. So definitely, let me know once you get some games in. I know you're pretty active on the Discord. Where are you based out of? Is there a local game store that you play at?
So I live in Harrisburg. So I do not know any local game store near me that carries Mythic Americas.
Hmm.
I know there's a bunch of people in like the Pottsville area who play, but that's still kind of like I think it's over an hour hike for me to get
Yeah.
there. So my opponent pool right now is very minimal. It's just basically, 2 friends of mine who have starter sets and are just learning to play. So I think the only chance I'm gonna have of getting a 1,000 point game in is going to uh Mythico Studios and getting one whenever they start doing the monthly kind of get together thing.
Yeah, I've been hounding them to institute that on a more set schedule, but all the employees have different personal things going on that's making that difficult right now. But I think Nelson recently posted that he wants to do every third Saturday of the month.
Yeah, I think he posted that today or yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
just a hike to get there. It's like 2.5 hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get a whole day's worth at games out of it, though, it's worth it. I'm about the same, depending, and it's not something I would do every weekend, but if I can get 3 games in by driving out there, it's worth the trek. So, if anybody else out there is in the area, definitely try to make it out to their HQ. They have a gorgeous setup there now. They have a big store, two different lots next to each other with lots of tables set up, Mythic Americas, Malifaux, 40K, anything you want. And their store is really good. They have so much paint there. It's amazing.
Oh, I know. They have just a crazy amount of paint racks. Like, I haven't seen any store near me that has, AK, Bear Cavalry, or 2 thin coats. That was pretty impressive.
They got everything over there. It's better than all of the local stores that I have combined. They have more paint. It's pretty good. But yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming on and chatting with us about the tournament. Congrats on the win. It was well earned, I can certainly say, from our game. And hopefully we'll be playing against each other again at another event soon.
Yeah, that sounds great. Hey, thanks for having me on, Jeff. And I'm sure I'll see you at another tournament in the future.
Sounds good. I want to send a huge thank you to the extremely cool kids here on Patreon, the Steam Powered Scoundrels, Robbie Ounce, Tom Likely, Russets, Spanner Rider, Devin, and Blue. And thanks for watching.